Hello everyone, my name is Richie and welcome back to another video. Today you join me for another comparison video because today we're going to compare Blackpool Branches and the recently released West Coast Mainline Preston to Carlisle, because why not? So recently I made a comparison video for the MBTA Commuter and Boston Sprinter, and I thought I'd do the same thing for these two routes because they're both made by Just Trains, they're both the same sort of era, same sort of area in the world, so I thought it's kind of fitting to compare the two and give you my opinion on the both of them and kind of decide which one's the best for you. And if you didn't see that video recently, I basically go through the timetables for each of the routes, do a bit of a run on each of them and tell you which one is better for you. So today we're going to compare the Pacer, which comes with Blackpool Branches, and the Class 87, you know, the key locos. So yeah, let's jump into what's better, Blackpool Branches or West Coast Mainline Preston to Carlisle. So before I drive any trains, I'll quickly jump into the timetable for them each and show you what's included in them, what sort of layers you get and all that sort of good stuff, and then we'll do a short run. I think on Blackpool Branches, which we'll do first, I'll run between Preston and the first station where it splits off. I think it's Kirkham and Wesham, so I'll do a run to there, and then in the West Coast Mainline route, I'm not sure, I might do a little run up to Lancaster, or I don't know, show you around Carlisle, I'm not too sure, but we'll do a bit of a run, like 10 minutes on each. So yeah, let's jump into it. So today we're going to go in release order for these. So we're going to look at the Blackpool Branches timetable first, and then we'll jump into the West Coast Mainline one. So Blackpool Branches, what do you get? You've got 237 services, 5 scenarios and a training module. Out of the 237 services for the Blackpool Branches timetable, they're run by these units, mostly by the Class 142 Pacer. Some of the layers that are included in this route are the Class 08, the Class 101, Class 40 and Class 45. I think the 101 and the 08 and the 47 I think are all included. I'm not too sure, I get confused with this one and West Coast Mainline, Preston, Carlisle. You've also got some layered services with the LMS Jubilee, and I think there is some, if you own them, the Class 20 and the Class 31 that layer into both of these routes, but I don't own that, so if you have them they'll also layer in. The Pacer does the bulk of the services, does, you know, all sorts of different bits of bobs. You go all over the place. Obviously, it's the star of the show is the Class 142 Pacer. And you've also got 3 different liveries and 3 different engine variants. So you basically get 9 versions of the Pacer, which is pretty darn cool. The Class 08 has 2 different variants, 2 liveried variants. I believe there's also the West Coast Mainline Shap one there. You also got included in this route a new version of the 47, and I think it was the large logo one, which is that one there. So that was new to Blackpool Branches. So you got a few new variants of the Class 47 too. So yeah, a pretty extensive timetable for a relatively short route. I think it's about 40 miles. That's a key thing to talk about in this video, is the route length. But there's different experiences, and that's what I want to kind of highlight in this video. Jumping into the West Coast Mainline Preston to Carlisle route, we've got 301 services, which is, you know, a bit more than Blackpool Branches, but we've got some more stuff running on it. So with the West Coast Mainline Preston to Carlisle, the star of the show is the Class 87, which is the first RichyRail electric loco in Trainsim World, I believe. You also get included in this a new version of the Class 101 with suspension. You also get the Class 47 and I believe a new version of the Class 08 as well. And as for some layers, you've got the Flying Scotsman, you've got the Jubilee, you've got Class 45, Class 40. You also, like I said before, get the Class 31 and the Class 20, which all layer in doing all sorts of different bits and bobs like rail tours and freight and all that sort of good stuff. And of course, as a layer, you get the Class 142 Pacer, which does most of the services that the 101 does. So obviously, if you have Blackpool Branches, you'll get the 142 as well. It's also key to mention that Just Trains are making a Class 86 Loco DLC, which I think will be primarily for this route, so that'll add a few services and stuff in the future. So yeah, that's a key one to look out for too. So I've jumped back into the Blackpool timetable now, and I'm going to jump into the Class 142 Pacer and do a little bit of a run and show you a bit of the map and the sounds of the Pacer and all that sort of good stuff. So yeah, let's jump into it and show you a bit of the Blackpool Branches route. So here we go, we're in the Blackpool Branches route in the Class 142, and I think I'm in the Skipper livery, the brown one. I think it's called Skipper anyway. There's 3 different liveries and 3 different variants of the Pacer. You've got the Provincial, and there's an orange one, and obviously this one. And you also get 3 different engine variants, and I think they're from different time periods. So there's one that's like 85 to 91, then 91 to 93, and then 93 plus, I think. I'm not too sure the exact dates. But there's different engine variants, so they all sound different, which is quite nice. They all sound different and look different. So 9 different variants, you can't go wrong with it. So we're going to jump in and get ourselves set up. So let's put the master key in. There you go, and pop that into forwards. Excellent. Let's unlock the doors and also get the headlights on. because the headlights are cool on this, and then also put that into Blackpool North. I would bother putting the one on the back, but I'm not doing that today because I can't be bothered to run down the back. So there we go, we're all set up and almost ready to go. Ain't it wonderful, the Pacer? We've also got a 47 in the background too. So let's have a quick little fly around Preston before we head on towards Kirkham and Wesham. So this is Preston, a pretty key station on this route and the West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle route. Obviously this is sort of the midpoint for Blackpool Branches because you head north and south out of here. I'll show you the route map as we get going in a second. But yeah, this is a very key route. So the Blackpool Branches route obviously spurs off away from the main line, but then the West Coast Main Line continues north. So let's get going towards Kirkham and Wesham in 7 miles time, and I'll tell you a bit more about the route. What are we waiting for here? Seems to be taking an awful long time. Is there another... what's that? Is that a Pacer? I think it is. Yeah, that's a Pacer. So we're waiting for another Pacer to come in, or a 101 or something to come in, so you do have to wait. There we go, we've got the green light. So let's get going. I'll let you listen to the sound of the Class 142 departing. Lovely stuff. Bearing in mind that this sound is very different for the other variants as well. But they sound good nonetheless. We've got another Pacer there, which is quite cool because this one's a provincial livery, which is just shows you the different liveries and all that sort of good stuff that just randomly spawn in. They're all, you know, pretty unique. I've gone on routes, on services along this route and seen a couple of orange ones, and then I've seen a brown one, and I've seen provincial. I think the provincial is the most common one for this sort of era and part of the world, but I think they're all included just for added gameplay and variety, which is quite nice. We're up to 35 in a second out of Preston, and I'll quickly show you the route map. So this is the route map for the Blackpool Branches route, and as you can see, the reason it's called Blackpool Branches is because there's many different ways to go on this route. So obviously the key point is Preston, so the main services you've got are Preston to Blackpool North. You've also got Ormskirk to Blackpool South. You've got a couple of Preston to Blackpool South. There's all sorts of different routes you can do on this, and there's so much replayability on this route. Honestly, you know, although there's less services than Preston Carlisle, you can find yourself doing at least 2 or 3 services in one go, and you know, you'd only would have passed about an hour and a half, 2 hours, whereas you do one service in Preston Carlisle and it will take you about 2 hours because it's quite a long route. Right, I want to make sure I'm not speeding here, so we can definitely get up to 35 now. So we've got another provincial there, and we've got a 101 too. So I think the 101 and the 142 sub in for one another, so you know, you will see the same service. If you do it twice, you'll see a 101, sometimes you'll see a provincial 142, sometimes you'll see an orange 142. So there's a lot of different, you know, variants of stuff that you can see, which is quite nice. We're up to 70 in a minute as well. Got a lovely bit of scenery as you leave Preston. The routes, both of the routes are incredibly detailed scenery wise. Honestly, they are fantastic. Both of these routes, I don't know if I've mentioned, but both of these routes are both made by Just Trains as well, which focus on this sort of 80s action, which is quite nice. But you know, I hope that they do the same sort of era and build on this sort of network that they're creating. Anyway, as we carry on, I'll show you the rest of the route. So out of the 3 different branches, you've got the Ormskirk branch, which is a single line, and you've got like a token changeover point, which is quite cool. You've then got the Blackpool South branch, which has got a lot more stations on it, but it's also single line and has Blackpool Pleasure Beach and a lot of these sort of like seasidey bits along it. And then you've got the main line, which is the Blackpool North bit, so you see a lot of the 47s going up there. You've got the steam rail tours which go up there, so a lot more action goes up here. And then you've also got the Blackpool Tower just next to the station. And then also, if you want to do a bit of freight, you've also got the Burnay's branch, which is accessible and usable, which I've done a couple of services on, so that's quite cool as well. So let's get back in our cab. We're speeding, which is not good. So that's the route, and this is the 142. So this sort of route, if you like your, you know, there's a bit of variety here. You can go different ways. You've got the sort of slower experience going down to Blackpool South, which has got a lot more start-stop action. You've got the sort of like mainline bit going up to Blackpool North, and then you've also got like it's kind of a mainline, but it's also not, of the Ormskirk branch, which is quite cool. So there's different like service patterns, which is quite nice. So it keeps you on your toes, and you know, you've got all sorts of bits and bobs to do, which is quite nice. I think my highlight for this route is the Pacer. The Pacer is so well made. It's absolutely beautiful. I don't know, the 142, it's just cool. Look at the way it bounces along the track as well. It's just incredible. I'm a massive fan of the Pacer. So another little cool feature about this route is that it's got announcements. If you press that, hold on, there you go. So you have to prompt the announcements, but they work and they're quite cool. So you know, you go along this route and you can prompt the announcements as you go along, which is a neat little feature. I think it's something that's going to be brought into the West Coast Main Line Preston Carlisle route for the Pacer eventually in a new update. But you know, the kind of announcement thing first came to the pacer in this route, which is quite cool. Lovely stuff. And another good thing about this route is that there's loads of signal boxes. In fact, on both routes there's loads of signal boxes, which are accessible, which is quite cool. I went into one on the Morecambe branch on the West Coast mainline route, which was quite interesting. But yeah, they're all very detailed inside. There's just a lot of work that's gone into these routes, which is really, really nice. And here we go, we're here at Kirkham and Wesham, so let's get slowed down because there's a red ahead of us and we don't fancy spadding because we'll break the game and that won't be fun. So let's get stopped there. I think that's a good stop. Lovely jubbly. And another good thing to notice on both routes is that the station modelling is just top tier. It's fantastic. Right, let's get the doors unlocked there. So that's a little look at the Blackpool Branches route, which honestly I think is absolutely incredible. But we'll jump into West Coast mainline Preston Carlisle, and then we'll do a final comparison at the end. So yeah, let's jump into the West Coast mainline route. And here we go, we're in the West Coast mainline Preston to Carlisle route in the beautiful Class 87. And I must admit, right, although I say I like the pacer, the 87 looks absolutely incredible. I have to admit that. So let's get ourselves set up. This one's a bit more difficult to set up. There's a lot more bits and bobs to it. So let's first unlock the doors, that'll be good. Let's put that into on, which is that way. There you go, put that into forwards, excellent. Then we also need to put the lights on. There we go, lights are on, and then also you need to make sure that you turn this AWS thing on here. That, if that's not on, it ain't going anywhere. I fell for that trick many times. Anyway, right, this is the Class 87. It looks absolutely fantastic and it sounds beautiful. This is also Preston. Again, not much has changed here between the two routes, but it's obviously, you know, a key point for both of the routes. You can route hop here, all that sort of good stuff. So whilst we're waiting for some passengers to load up, I'll very quickly show you the route map. So this is the route map here. Let me zoom right out because you need to. Right, there you go. That's the route map. It's pretty darn nuts. It's a bit of an unfair comparison because obviously the Blackpool Branches route equates to about 44 miles over different branches. The West Coast mainline Carlisle to Preston route is 90 miles, I believe, almost 100, because you've also got Kingmore, you've got the Morecambe branch. There's a lot of mileage here. With that becomes less stations though. I think there's only like 8 stations on this route, whereas Blackpool Branches has a couple more. I think has about 15 or 16, I'm not too sure. But you know, there's a lot more mileage, but a lot less stations on this route. And we've timed that perfectly because I can lock the doors. So let's get going. I'll let you listen to the Class 87 as it departs because it's nice. It's also a tap changer, so I need to make sure that it starts working. Because the tap changer is a bit of a difficult one. You need to make sure it's in the green. There you go. Well, you can make sure it's in the yellow as well. That'll get it moving. Lovely stuff. There's also neutral sections as well. So I'll let you listen to the Class 87 as it departs very slowly. Right, there we go. Got it moving. Took me a minute to get it moving then. But yeah, there you go. This is the 87. This is the departing sounds. Lovely stuff. Very strong horn as well. Lovely stuff. I love the 87. It's quite nice. But it's also a different view, you know, to as we leave Preston, you know, in the pacer, you're in that little box window and you're bouncing along. In this, it's a bit more sophisticated, let's say. It's a big boy loco, this, isn't it? Whereas the pacer's a cute little branch line thing. Anyway, right, we're up to 35 out of Preston. You know, this is all familiar territory. And then we're up to 110 on this route. So you can get up to high speeds. And this is what this is. This route is an 80s high speed route. So that's the key thing to compare between the two routes, that, you know, Blackpool Branches is a commuter, it's slower, you know, there's a lot more stations on it, a lot more stop-start. This is high speed, you are covering a lot of mileage very quickly. To get to Lancaster, we're forecast to be 17 minutes, which it took me about 15 minutes to get from from Preston to Kirkham Wesham on the Blackpool Branches route. So, you know, that's the key comparison, that because it's a high speed route you can cover a lot more mileage. So if your thing is for getting mileage stamps, then do this route, but if you want a commuter experience, do Blackpool Branches. So we're going to start going up to 110 very shortly, and then I'll give you a bit more of a breakdown of this route. So here we go, we're up to 80 mile an hour now and we are leaving Preston in the dust. You can see the spire back down there. The Blackpool Branches route, as you can see on the map just here, the Blackpool Branches route goes off this way towards Blackpool and then down this way towards Ormskirk, and then we go up here very, very quickly for a very long time. Some key bits of interest on this route, you've got the Morecambe branch, which is this here, as you can see down here, which is all very accessible. I did a video on that the other day where you can run along the promenade for a very long time. The Morecambe branch is also quite significant. You see a lot of 101 services on it, a lot of 142 services on it. You can be on the Morecambe branch for a very long time going to and from Lancaster. You've also got the track included to Wesham and the Windermere branch, but you can't go down it. I believe they included it in the outset, but then because of time limitations they obviously had to cut it back, so they included the track there. Maybe one day they might include it, we'll see what happens, but I don't imagine so anytime soon. Some other key bits and bobs, obviously got Lancaster station, you've also got Carnforth here, which sees a lot of pacer services going between Preston and Carnforth. You keep running up here, you've got Oxenholme, which is a sort of like connection point for the Windermere branch, and then you keep going up here, you've got Penrith, and then you've got Carlisle up here somewhere. There you go, there's Carlisle. And then you keep going north of Carlisle and you've got Kingmore Depot, which has an awful lot of shunting and freight and all that sort of good stuff. So yeah, all in all, it's a pretty long route, so if you like your high speed stuff and you like your 80s high speed stuff, this is the route for you. Anyway, let's get going. We're up to 100 mile an hour and we can get going. I need to get up to speed because I'm not going very quickly here, so let's get up to speed and we'll just see how quickly it gets to Lancaster, because it is quite quick. So here we go, as we build speed up towards Lancaster, I'll quickly get an external shot of the 87, which looks absolutely wonderful. So a cool thing to notice about the 87 is that there's two different variants of it. There's an IC version and the BLU version, which is this one, and there's also loads of different nameplates on them as well. We're also speeding, which is not good. Oh, there we go, got it under control, lovely stuff. Yeah, so there's loads of different nameplates included as well, so I think, you know, each number is assigned a different nameplate, so when you're on this route and you see a different 87, it will be a different 87. Like, visibly, it will have a different nameplate on it. It may even be a different livery, which is quite cool. So this route is absolutely stunning. Both routes are absolutely stunning. Just the scenery, look at it. Like, as you fly along the Lake District in a Class 87, it's just, there's something about it, it's nice. But yeah, this is the externals. Couple of horns as well. Sounds beautiful, sounds really, really nice. You also get some new coaches, I think. I'm not too sure what type of coaches they are. I think they're Mark IIIs, I'm not too sure. I don't know what different Mark carriages mean, but I know that you get some new carriages in this route, which allows them to get up to 110 mile an hour, which is quite cool. In fact, I think I've got the older carriages on them, because we can actually get up to 110, but if you've got the different carriages coupled up to you, you can only go up to 100. So that's a cool little gameplay feature that, you know, depending on what carriages you pull in, depends on what speed you can go. Oh, this is very fitting. We've got a pacer going past here. There you go, off goes that pacer, which is going back towards Preston. So that is operating one of the Carnforth services, which I think goes up the Cumbrian coastline. We are less than 10 miles to Lancaster, and this is what I mean, you know, you just, once you're going then, and you're suddenly in Lancaster. And this scenery, absolutely beautiful. We've just passed the town down there. There you go, we've got some houses here too. And it's just incredible, the scenery. Both of these routes, both Blackpool Branches and West Coast Main Line, have got such well-detailed scenery. They're quite big, I won't lie to you, they're quite big on, like, you know, storage size. I think this route is about 16 gig, and I think Blackpool Branches is about 10, so, you know, you sort of expect a lot of detail on these routes because they are quite big gigabyte-wise, but that's the good thing about these routes, you're certainly getting your money's worth for detail. Actually, on the topic of money, that's a key little segue into the route prices. So the Blackpool Branches route is £29.99, which is standard route price. The West Coast Mainline route is a little bit more expensive, it's for £32.99, so it's an extra £3, which, to be fair, I think is justifiable, because you get a much longer route, almost double the length of Blackpool Branches. You also get 4 included pieces of rolling stock, so if you don't own any of the other 80s era routes, you get the 87, the 47, the 101 and the 08 all included, which is very nice. So that's a key thing to look at as well, you know, when you're comparing the two routes, is the price difference. And to be fair, you know, also for the £29.99 for the Blackpool Branches route, you get 9 different variants of the pacer, so you certainly get your money's worth for both of these routes. Another thing to mention about this comparison video is obviously the West Coast Mainline route has the guard mode, but Blackpool Branches doesn't. I believe they are thinking about backporting that into the Blackpool Branches route at some point, but yeah, the West Coast Mainline has guard mode on the 87 and the 101, I believe, so if you want to give guard mode a go, you can on this route. And here we go, we are approaching Lancaster in about a mile's time, so let's get some brakes in. And as you can see, as we come into Lancaster, it just looks absolutely stunning. Look at this, it's very autumnal as well, which helps. You know, you run these routes in an autumn setting, and genuinely it's one of the most beautiful things you'll ever see in a game. And here we go, this is Lancaster Station. Let's get in. We've got a fast service going through here. Lovely stuff. So that'll be a I think that'll be like a non-stop from Carlisle, which is quite cool. So you see a lot of different AI bits on here. You get some freight, you get some high-speed stuff, you've got some stopping stuff, you've got the little commuter services, you've got the 101 there. Look at that beautiful stuff. So there's a lot of AI on this route. So let's get stopped here at Lancaster. We've got another 101 over there. Got all sorts of stuff going on. And there we go. That is us at Lancaster. Lovely stuff. So that was a bit of a run on the West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle route. I'll jump back towards Preston, get the two locos back in and talk about the two routes and give you a bit of a final summary. And here we go, we're back at Preston, and I thought I'd spawn in some different variants of the two locos we've been looking at today. So obviously we've got the orange Pacer and we've got the IC version of the 87. So my final thoughts on both of the routes. So Blackpool Branches, an incredible route. You know, if you want a bit of a commuter sort of style route, you know, you also get the Pacer, a lot of diesel action. In fact, I think it's all diesel action on the Blackpool Branches route. You know, go for that one. It's a very good route. You know, Blackpool, beautiful scenery. You get to see the Blackpool Tower. You got some freight on there, which is all very good. Whereas if you want a bit of high-speed action in the 80s, go for West Coast Main Line Preston Carlisle. You know, you've got freight on there, you've got rail tours on there, you've got passenger services, you've got you know, sort of commuter sort of style services with the Pacer and the 101. There's all sorts going on there. Both routes have got a ton of layers on them, so they're both just as good as one another. If it was down to me, what would I choose out of the two? And honestly, I say this every time, I'd pick both, because they are both just as good as one another. You know, they both offer something different, but they're also both quite, you know, similar in different ways too. Some of you may even say in the comments that you own Blackpool Branches and you want to, you know, wait for a sale on West Coast Main Line or whatever else, and you just want to see, you know, whether it's worth the full price of 33 quid. I genuinely would say yes it is, because you get an awful lot included. And there we go, that is my comparison of both the Blackpool Branches route and the West Coast Main Line routes, both made by Just Trains. They're both incredible and I would highly recommend both of them. So with all that said and done, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have, please make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. If you're new, I'd massively appreciate it. So thank you all for watching, and I'll hopefully see you all in the next video. Bye bye.